Alright, I feel like talking Doctor Who a little bit more. I've done my countdown of my favorite Doctors, going up through number 11. I counted down the companions of the modern era. Now, I feel like talking villains. Now, like with my companions list, I am going to be confining myself to the modern era just so this thing doesn't get ridiculously long. And because of the glut of fantastic villains and monsters that this show has given us, I've actually got to break this into parts. And right now, I'm going to talk one-time villains. So these are villains who have appeared in only one story, and to be clear, two-parters count as one story. They've only been in one story in the modern era, and they have not returned. Now, some of them may return, and in fact, a lot of them I would like to see return, but so far, they haven't. So here is my countdown of the top 10 one-time Doctor Who villains. Number 10, the Minotaur. As seen in the episode The God Complex, this villain, we don't actually learn all that much about him, but this is just a creature and a monster that is perfectly utilized between the hotel serving as the labyrinth and just changing up all the time, and the creature itself being really kind of an unwilling villain. It doesn't want to be consuming these people, but it can't help itself. It's instinctive. When you put its food in front of it, it's going to eat, and that's what it's doing, even though it would just as soon lay down and die. I find that layer of complexity really interesting. I like what it brought out in the characters, both the ones who survived and the ones who didn't. There'd be no point in ever bringing this guy back, but for his use and his appearance, really masterfully done. Number 9, House. This is a villain that should not work. It's a sentient planet, comet, trash ball that really has no physical presence. It's just a voice and a green light, and that's it. There's no way that that should be an effective villain, but man, is it ever. Between the way that he's written and the way that Michael Sheen delivered that vocal performance, he gave menace and he gave this great sense of arrogance. And he just delivered so much punch with just a voice and what he put those characters through just because he could, because he wanted to be entertained and because he wanted the energy of the TARDIS. And it's actually a really fun contrast in terms of how that character is handled and how Idris is done, the essence of the TARDIS. Something that is normally completely intangible. It's just a sense we get from this machine put into a physical body and given, life and physical action, whereas the villain, normally you need that physical intimidation. You need to see it in its eyes, and you need to get that sense for a villain to have proper menace, but they don't have that. It's completely incorporeal, yet it works. Number 8, Davros. Now, I expect him to come back. I would be stunned if he never comes back, but he hasn't yet, so I have to put him on the one-timers list. What is there to say about Davros that hasn't been said already? Creator of the Daleks, he has this wonderful sense of Dalek-ness about him between the way his voice is and that sort of glow of the eye up here and the wheelchair thing that he's stuck in, yet he's still distinctly different, and he's got this maniacal sense to him. He's not quite as single-minded. He's not as trapped in one way of thinking as the Daleks are, which in a way makes him actually more dangerous than the Daleks. I mean, he is a nihilistic villain at his complete essence. For him, absolute measure of his power is his ability to obliterate everything. He's capable of it. He's willing to do it. He's got his history with the Doctor as well. And while I can't really count his appearances in the classic era towards his ranking on this list, you feel the weight of their history, even if this is the only episode you've ever seen him in. Number 7, the Vashta Nerada. Are you afraid of the dark? Well, you will be by the time you're done with this two-parter. Shadows that eat you. I mean, what a great concept. And again, like so many of these things, just really well visually realized, because it could have been really cheesy. It could have been this stupid, cheesy animated shadow that just lashed out at you. No, it's a simple thing. There's 2 shadows. And then you're gone. And then that swarm mentality, that sense as they start to get to be able to communicate. And credit where credit's due, the Doctor does not defeat them. All he does is convince them not to kill him that day. That's the best he can manage with this stuff. I mean, it's fear of the dark. It is true classic at our core fear that we've all had at some point in our life. It's the perfect thing to tap into, and Doctor Who's really good at that. Number 6, Mr. Finch and the Krillitanes. I'll admit I'm really biased on this one, and it's largely because I love Anthony Stewart Head. I think he is amazing, and he is really the reason that they rank so highly and that I want him specifically to come back. The Krillitates as a concept are kind of cool also. The idea that they evolve continuously and they adapt features from places that they conquer, which means if they ever do come back, they don't have to look like the CGI bad things they looked before. They can be completely redesigned, but still be those same villains. But if they ever come back, we need Anthony Stewart Head, because just watch the scene where he faces off with David Tennant near that pool. He just has this sense of gravitas and weight to the words that he's saying, that even though they're just talking politely at that, you get this feeling that the Doctor really is talking to somebody who could stand up to him. And it has nothing to do with physical power, any show of actual intelligence, any sense of ruthlessness. You just get this sense of weight to his words, and you just leaves you thinking, ooh, we're in trouble. And then when he gets ticked off and he's got that scowl, he is great on screen. I would love to get him back. And I think we could. Think about it. When that oil explodes and all the other Krillitates, they're screaming, ah, being burned, he's just standing there. Yes, there was a big explosion after that, but he was obviously not as affected by this oil as all the rest of them. He is being shown to be superior amongst his peers. Bring him back. Number 5, the Dream Lord. Here's another one that I would give almost anything for them to figure out a way to bring him back. Toby Jones is just the perfect anti-Doctor. Whereas the Doctor has charm, he just has smarminess. The Doctor is this affable, patronly figure. He's just this vicious little goblin. And obviously, being a sort of an aspect of the dark side of the Doctor himself, he knows the Doctor so well, he knows the companion so well, he knows how to mess with them, how to toy with them. And he's just so sure of himself. He's just got this cockiness and the Doctor's got a cockiness too, but the Doctor has a cockiness that makes you have confidence in him. The Dream Lord has a cockiness that makes you want to punch him. It's the perfect contrast. Number 4, the Family of Blood. I know on a number of these I said they're ones I wish could come back. I would never bring these guys back because they were so perfect with how they were used. Don't bring them back, you're just gonna wreck it. And I know we even could, because we know that with a number of these characters, they weren't killed. The daughter-sister one especially, it's even mentioned, maybe one day the Doctor will let her out. Don't ever do that, guys, please. Just let it end the way it did. It was so awesome. This family and just the way they relate to each other and how they communicate, it's just this slight off-puttingness, how they don't have names. They only refer to each other by what their relationship is. Mother of mine, sister of mine, where the parents call him son of mine. And it's all about the family. It's all about the relationship. You feel that bond between them, that they are so tightly knit and yet so completely vicious. They don't care what is in their way. They know what they want and they are going to get it no matter what. They're straightforward, they're efficient, but not in that sort of cold Cyberman unfeeling way. They've got emotions. They're emotionally invested in what they're doing, but they're just so single-minded. It's frightening. And the performances by all 4 of those actors are just so perfect. I would say it doesn't get much better than that, but I've got 3 ranked above them, so clearly it actually gets a little better than that. Number 3, the Midnight Entity. We will probably never know what that thing was and what it was trying to do, but you know what? It's better that way, because the fact that we don't know what it was, we don't know what it wanted, we don't know what its ultimate goal was, what it was actually even really doing, just makes it that much more frightening. Just the idea that there's this thing that could steal not only your voice, but the very essence of you, and it just takes it and claims it for itself. And it was so unnerving to just watch the Doctor try and be compassionate and helpful and understanding. It didn't matter. It just didn't care. No interest. It just wanted what he had, and it was gonna take it. And it won. Now, he did get saved by that stewardess, but he couldn't out-talk this thing, he couldn't outthink this thing, and it was so perfect to put that in a later season, like a season 4, so that we've gotten to know the Doctor, we've gotten to know David Tennant's Doctor specifically. We know he can talk his way out of anything. Even if he can't talk the villain out of killing him, he can talk long enough that he comes up with something else. Talking, in this case, actually made it worse, because the more he talked, the more it pulled from him. It was a darn near perfect villain for a character who loves to talk. Number 2, the Beast. What can I say? It's the devil. I know that they won't confirm that completely, they leave it a bit ambiguous, but come on, it's the devil. And that should be really dumb. That should be really cheesy. The Devil versus Doctor Who. What the heck is up with that? But the fact that they spread it out over a two-parter so that it's not a stupid cheesy gimmick and you get to know this thing a bit and you get this really ominous sense from it. And that's just based off the first episode before you actually even get physical time with the thing. That voice and that creature, its massiveness, its design, you just get raw power emanating from this thing, whether it's the voice or it's the creature or it's those little looks when it's possessing Toby. This thing is in control. And to see the Doctor get thrown off that much just by conceptually what it is he's facing, that's really well planned, well paced, intelligent storytelling. So who comes out on top? Who can outdo the Devil when it comes to villains? Well, for me, there's just one question that I gotta ask you. Are you my mummy? The empty child. Oh my God, this thing freaked me out. You need to understand, I love all of these villains, whether it's the one-offs or the recurring characters, and so many of them are really scary, and I get that they are scary, like in concept, I understand why they're scary, I understand how they're scary. I don't actually get scared by them. I'm just not really a person who gets scared by entertainment as a general rule. This thing creeped me out though. It was just this sense that it didn't even really know what it was doing or the damage that it was causing. And you kind of felt bad for it, especially as you learn more about it and you realize this is just a frightened child, but it doesn't matter because it can destroy you. The idea of something that innocent and that deadly inhabiting the same physical being, to me, is really terrifying. I can't not give this top spot to the one Doctor Who villain that has legitimately given me nightmares. So there it is. That is my list of one-off Doctor Who villains, top 10 for the modern era. I'll be back to talk recurring villains. Until that time, this council is adjourned.